Okay, you guys should have this worksheet in front of you that's Algebra 4 or 7.4 Algebra Notes, not Algebra 4. But before we get started on that, I wanted to show you this quick picture. I hope you guys can see it on your screen, but it is an image that has 3 graphs on it, or 3 lines on this one graph. And I want you to look at how we have done this red line that's Sean's, that's linear. We did the whole first semester working on that line. Recently, we worked on learning what this blue line is. That's Billy's line. That's exponential, something that comes really close to 0 and then shoots up really fast exponentially. And then the new one is Tom. This green one that is in the shape of a U or an upside down U is what we're getting ready to learn about. We are not going to graph it yet this chapter, but we are next chapter. And so you're going to start doing some math that has 2 answers. And those 2 answers are called roots, and that is where they cross the x-axis. So if you were looking at Tom's line here on this picture, your answers would be 0 and whatever that is are they counting by 2s? 2, 4, 6, 8. So those, you would have 2 answers. So now let's look at this worksheet. And so later, whenever you see that we have 2 answers, it's because they're going to be the 2 places they cross the x-axis. Okay, a polynomial is in factored form. When it is written as a product of factors. You guys have been writing it in standard form, which looks like this. But now we're going to learn about factoring it and putting it in factored form. It's also a fancy way of reverse distributing. So we'll get to learn that here in just a minute. When one side of an equation is a polynomial in factored form and the other side is 0, use the 0 product property, which is what we're going to learn today. So don't worry that you don't know what that is yet. 0 product property to solve the polynomial equation. The solutions to the polynomial equation are also called roots. So when you get 2 answers, they're called roots or solutions. Sometimes they're called solutions. Okay, so here we go. Part 1. We don't know what 2x is, and we don't know what x minus 4 is, but if they're being multiplied, see how 2x is squished up against this? Then that means they're being multiplied and they equal 0. So if you think of any other number, x times y, and it equals 0, we don't know what x and y are, but we know that one of those has to be 0 because it equals 0 when you multiply. So same thing going on here. One of these is equal to, or they're both equal to 0. So we can branch them off and say we don't know what 2x is, but we're going to set it equal to 0. And we don't know what x minus 4 is, but we're going to set it equal to 0 also. And then you're just going to solve both of them. So solve this one, divide both sides by 2, 0. And then on this one, you will get to get x by itself, you'll add 4. So our 2 roots or solutions are 0 and 4. All right. So for number 2, you're going to do the same thing. Either x minus 3 is equal to 0 or x minus 9 has to be equal to 0 for the 2 to be multiplied and it to equal 0. So we're using the 0 product property to set these each equal to 0 to find the roots. So x minus 3 equals 0 and x minus 9 equals 0. Go ahead and solve them. If at any time I'm going too fast, just push pause. Add 3 to both sides because we're trying to get x by itself. So 1 root is 3. And on this one, if you add 9 to both sides, x would equal 9. Okay, you can start to see these answers. If you know that x minus 3 and x minus 9 is 0, you can start to kind of do that in your head. If it's subtracting 9 or subtracting 3, you know that you're going to add 3 on both sides, so it's going to be 3. If you know they're subtracting 9, you're going to add 9, so it's going to be 9. So a lot of times, go back to the first one, minus 4, it's going to be plus positive 4. So you can kind of start to do some of these in your head and not show as much work, but I want you to see how I did it. Oh, so the 2 roots down here were 0 and 4 for number 1, and 3 and 9 for number 2. Okay, let's try the your turn. Actually, if you have time, go ahead and push pause and try these next 3 on your own, and then start the video back up and see if you did it right. All right, if you're still watching the video or if you didn't push pause yet, I'm going to work them out real quick. 3x equals 0 and x plus 2 equals 0. So that would be x equals 0 And then for the other root, you can, again, kind of do that in your head. You can see that we're subtracting 2 on both sides. X would equal -2. So 0 and -2. All right, on number 4, branch them both off. Really, you could do those in your head too. But just to show you how it works, set that one and that one both equal to 0. Solve them both. X equals 4. And x equals 6. All right, on the last one, there's actually 3 answers because 3 things are being multiplied. So you would have to set 5p equal to 0, and 2p minus 3 equal to 0, and p plus 7 equal to 0. So you're going to have 3 roots, 3 different answers. This one on the graph will look kind of like this because it will hit your x-axis in 3, oops, sorry, you can't really see that, in 3 different spots. So we're not going to graph any like that this year, but you should still know what that means. So this one would be 0. This one would be, add 3, 2p equals 3, divide both sides by 2. P equals, you could leave it 3/2. The reason I'm going to go ahead and write it as a decimal 1.5 is because, again, if you were graphing them like this graph is, it's a lot easier to put a dot at 1.5 than it is at 3/2. That's a little bit harder to think of. So I'm going to call it 1.5, but if you left it 3/2, that's still correct. And then the last one would cross at -7. Okay. I am almost out of video space, so I'm going to turn this video off and then start a new one to show you the back side. So I think, yes, so go ahead and watch video 2 to start on the back for notes.